Hello, guys, and sorry, shit, fuck, damn it, sorry. New Age Movie Rebel here, and I'm doing a review of one of Harrison Ford's worst ever movies, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. Anyway, so basically, it's one of his worst ever movies, and not only that, but it was one of his last Indiana Jones movies he was ever committed to make. Okay, so this movie is fucking terrible. Okay, not only does it turn out that all those crazy things that he went on in adventures suddenly fucking turn up, but now he's not only fighting one stereotype, but he's fighting another ethnical, not ethical, but another freaking national thing. Like first in the first movie it was Nazis. Second movie, it was Indians and Arabs and that sort of thing. Third movie, Nazis again. Now why is he fighting? Oh, I don't know. Nazis? No. Arabs? No. Out of state terrorists? A little bit. This time, not only is he fighting not Germans, not Russians. I mean, fuck. Okay, so he's fighting Russians. Russians. Because this is a time right between well, it's after World War II. I don't know if it takes place, like, it's supposed to take place in the 50s or the 60s, somewhere around there. So basically, it's during the time of the Cold War. That's about all you need to know. And the Russians chasing him and that sort of thing. So he starts off being kidnapped by the Russians and taken to a top secret military establishment base outside of Nevada. And so the Russians have captured him. They take him to this base, which is not guarded at all. At fucking all. And he's forced by the Russians to try to figure out a box they're looking for. They're looking for a specific box that has been hidden inside this basically huge cargo hold full of nothing but cargo boxes, hidden secrets of the U.S. government. So, he's going through there, he's helping the Russians, and they're describing what's inside the box. And I'm not going to spoil it yet. So they go through, and he says he'll help them find it. And the only way to do so is for him to grab gunpowder or something particle, so that way he can use it to help find the box. Because the box is highly magnetized. It's full of magnetization. I don't know if that's a fucking word. The only way you can find it is to try to get some metal particles to show him the way. So they give him some gunpowder from, I think, a grenade or something, and he uses that. He tosses it up in the air. Then next thing you know, the particles of the gunpowder start floating around in the air. That they then follow, because that's what's going to lead them to the box. They find the box. They open the box. They start tearing through it. Next thing you know, they cut through it, and apparently it's some sort of body. Anyway, we'll get to that later. It was some sort of remains of something dead. So they get through it. Indy manages to escape. He was actually with a friend of his that apparently fought with him during the earlier times of the beginning of the Cold War. The communists and that sort of thing. He fought with alongside him. They're going through that. He betrays Indy. They try to recapture him. They're going to kill him. They're actually going to shoot him. They stop. He runs away. He gets away. Just enough time to escape. And they have this big scene where he's being chased by one of the head Russians. He tackles them. And they get stuck on a conveyor belt rocket thing. Some kind of scientific experiment that's supposed to, that sort of thing. They take off. Indy manages to get away from him, where he makes it to this town. But it turns out the town is really just a nuclear weapons armed test site that the U.S. government is using to test nuclear weapons. In the middle of the fucking desert, by the way. He's using it to test weapons, and they test them. Indy is unfortunate enough to have gone to the center of the frickin' city right when they start the countdown that the bomb is about to go off. So he does what any sane person will do. He gets in. He gets inside of a lead-lined, big old, huge refrigerator, locks himself in there, and somehow it freaking works. Like the bomb goes off, it throws everything, and somehow the blast radius literally lifts the fridge up, throws it, and manages to get him outside the blast radius of the nuclear bomb, where he just stays in there until it's over, and then he gets out and he sees the wreckage and the devastation, and he gets away. They then cut to him going back after that, getting captured and not captured, but arrested by the FBI. Who then tell him all this stuff about who had kidnapped him and all that stuff. They go through that, and then so they just said they're going to be watching him. Afterward, he goes back to being a professor at his college, where then it actually turns out the FBI has actually come in and taken a bunch of his files from his workplace, through various search warrants and that sort of thing. Which, and then the dean has taken offense to this. He's also a big friend of Indy because he knew his father and that sort of thing. He had the dean himself was actually is the only way that he can save Indy, not his job, but the ability to get paid for what he's doing. Even though he's getting fired. Indy's getting fired, but they're going to continue to pay his full salary through the amount of time he's fired. After that, what happens is the dean resigns. Indy gets fired. Indy gets sent over. He was going to get on a train bound for New York. Then, right before, he gets stopped by Shia LaBeouf, who claims that he knows knowledge of one of Indy's old friends, Harold Oxley, a professor of archaeology, who's gone down to Central America to find a known artifact known as the Crystal Skull. And he's been sent to buy it to take it to a place known as Akator. Other people know it as El Dorado, known as an ancient legend in Central America called El Dorado, or the City of Gold. The conquistadors came over, when they came over to Central America and over in Panama and that sort of thing. They were looking for, riches, gold, plunder, all that sort of thing. And they were taken from there into this huge city made by the Aztecs and the Mayans, called the City of Gold, El Dorado. It was supposed to be a myth, but apparently, known in this movie, it's not a myth. It was literally created by, these beings, these people who have created it. So he's on the way to look for it. Indy, in turn, is going to go after him to help him out and try to find him, because Shia LaBeouf apparently needs him to help find him, so that way he can help him find his mother, who has also been captured. Funny story there, anyway. Going on, they get to South America, where they're tracked by Indy's betrayed friend, Mac, who follows them there to Central America, and then they go on from there. They find this ancient burial ground where Oxley, Indy's friend who's been kidnapped, has replaced the crystal skull because it drove him insane and he couldn't get into Akator to give it back, which is what he was trying to do. So he put it back where he found it, which was in this burial ground, which is the ancient Indian burial ground of one of the original conquistadors, who apparently was the one that stole the crystal skull from Akator in the first place. So after that, they go through this whole thing. Indy gets captured by the Russians again, with Shia LaBeouf, and is taken to their facility outside of some kind of big forest, deep jungle, where they are forcing him to. They're telling him all their evil plans and that sort of thing. That big cliche with enemies, where before they kill you, they have to tell you everything that's going to happen, that sort of thing. So they're telling them their plans. They're going to go into. It turns out that the crystal skulls are actually the remaining skulls of these interdimensional beings, basically aliens. Yes, aliens. Aliens in an Indiana Jones movie. So they tell them that the crystal skulls are actually skulls left behind by the remains of these ancient aliens who have apparently taken over Akator and were presented as gods by the local people of their tribes. So basically, Indy gets Oxley to tell him where the Akator is so they can return the skull. Basically, they run away from the Russians, and they along the way they find out that Indy's long lost quote unquote girlfriend, that's what love interest, who apparently he had given up to keep her away from harm. Marion Ravenwood. It turns out to be not only there being captured by the Russians, but also turns out to be Shia LaBeouf's mother in this movie. So they meet up. They escape from the Russians. On their way to Akator, they actually reach this ancient tribe, where they still have living people there, literal living people of this ancient tribe, descendants of this ancient tribe, who try to basically kill them because they're basically desecrating their land. They're trying to break into their secret, place. But anyway, they actually scare them off because Oxley figures out that they're actually worshipped and scared of the crystal skull that they actually have in their possession. So they literally use it to literally ward off these tribal members. They then make it to the entrance to Akator, which it's basically a puzzle. They have to figure it out in order to break in. They break in, they get through, they enter a treasure room, which is filled with literally all the ancient treasures and missing artifacts from all of the cultures all around the world. Okay, so that was a little strange. Anyway, they get into the door. They have this big door they use, and they open it, and then they walk in. And big shock, there's like 12 friggin' aliens. Not aliens, but alien skulls and skeletons that have been left behind by dead aliens who are trying to escape and get back to their dimension. Before they were going to leave humanity and escape back to the dimension. But the only problem was they couldn't leave because they needed the power of one of the leftover aliens who had turned out, in fact, been killed. And his skull has been taken from him, and that's why they wanted to return it. So that way they could get back to their original dimension and that sort of thing. So that's what happened. They returned the crystal skull. The Russian chick that has been following them has returned it by herself. So she gave it back. And it turns out the aliens come back. Apparently the skeletons have reformed collectively into one big alien. As it turns out, their spaceship is where they're sitting. Their palace, their whole thing was their big spaceship, and now is being controlled by this alien. And Indy and his friends and family escape. Matt gets killed along the way. The Russian chick who had kidnapped them and done all this before gets killed herself. Because apparently the aliens saw her as greedy or unworthy of their knowledge, so they killed her. Indy and everyone else, all the main characters, escape through some kind of wormhole or something. Not a wormhole, but like get lifted up. They get rushed over by this big wave of water that then lifts them up in through outside this well, and they're literally transported outside of the big monument, and the palace that is then lifted up out of the ground and destroyed by these aliens, which then turns into their spaceship that they then use to travel inter between dimensions, and they go out. They're gone. They escaped. Then the movie ends with, apparently, turns out Shia LaBeouf was Indiana Jones' son all along, and then Marion or wherever, his girlfriend from a long time ago, they and Indy get married, and Shia LaBeouf comes in and they do all this stuff, and that's it. That's literally it. That's how the movie ends. Marriage, they get married, they have a big happy ending, no more aliens, no more, and everybody's dead except for them. They're evil, Cold War's everything over. It's like, yay, hip hip hooray, that's it. That's fucking it. This was a terrible fucking movie. I fucking hate this movie. I liked it originally for its theme and the simple fact that it's Indiana Jones, but this movie is fucking terrible. Don't ever watch it. I've been the New Age movie rebel. I hope you enjoy this review. Have a nice day. Bye. Fucking hate this movie, man. I fucking hate it.